The agreement everyone signed. The day the galaxy united. The signing ceremony took place on Neutral Station Omega, a massive structure built specifically for this historic moment. Representatives from 247 species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, a chamber so vast that entire starships could have fit inside. Holographic translators floated above each delegation, converting thousands of languages into mutual understanding. Ambassador Jennifer Torres stood with the human delegation, watching species after species step forward to sign the Galactic Harmony Accord. It was the most comprehensive peace treaty in recorded history, promising an end to territorial conflicts, resource wars, and the countless small disputes that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. The VRYNN signed with their crystalline appendages, leaving glowing marks on the digital document. The KES signed with chemical signatures that changed colors as they dried. The DELO signed with pure thought, their neural patterns recorded directly into the treaty's quantum matrix. Beautiful, isn't it? Counselor Vexcar of the VRYNN floated beside Jennifer, his translucent body pulsing with satisfied colors. 2,000 years of negotiation, compromise, and cooperation. Finally, the galaxy can know peace. Jennifer smiled politely. She had been Earth's chief negotiator for 3 years, participating in hundreds of sessions, reviewing thousands of pages of treaty language. She knew this document better than almost anyone in the chamber. She also knew something no one else seemed to have noticed. It's remarkable, Jennifer agreed. A true achievement for all species. And humanity played such a crucial role, Vexcar continued. Your species' reputation for attention to detail helped us refine so many provisions. We should celebrate together after the ceremony. I'd be honored, Jennifer said, watching as another species stepped forward to sign. The small words that changed everything. 6 hours later, after all 247 species had signed and the celebration had moved to the diplomatic reception halls, Jennifer sat alone in her quarters reviewing the final treaty text one more time. Her team thought she was being obsessive. The treaty was done, signed, sealed, ready for implementation. What could possibly matter now? Everything, Jennifer thought, highlighting a section buried in Article 847, subsection 12, paragraph 94. She pulled up her communication console and sent an encrypted message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Eyes only for the President and Joint Chiefs. Then she sat back and waited. The response came 3 hours later. Her superior, Secretary Chen, appeared on the holographic display, looking confused and slightly annoyed at being awakened in the middle of Earth's night. Ambassador Torres, I hope this is important. The President wants to know why you're flagging treaty language that's already been signed by everyone, including us. Jennifer pulled up the relevant section. Article 847, subsection 12, paragraph 94. Read it carefully. Chen squinted at the display. All signatories agree to resolve disputes through the Galactic Arbitration Council, utilizing standard mediation protocols as defined in Appendix 7.3.2, with enforcement measures as necessary to maintain galactic harmony. He looked up. So? That's standard treaty language. Every species agreed to it. Now read Appendix 7.3.2, Jennifer said. Chen pulled up the appendix, scanning through pages of dense legal text. His expression slowly changed from irritation to confusion to horror. This can't be right, he whispered. It is, Jennifer said. I've triple-checked. The standard mediation protocols include a provision that grants the Arbitration Council authority to enforce decisions using any means necessary, including military intervention, resource confiscation, and in extreme cases, complete suspension of a species' sovereignty. Chen stared at her. That means any species that refuses an Arbitration Council decision can have their entire civilization placed under galactic control, Jennifer finished. And the Council itself? It's composed of the 5 oldest species in the galaxy, the ones with the most advanced technology and the largest fleets. The ones who wrote most of this treaty. The trap hidden in peace. This is a takeover, Chen said, his face pale. A legal framework for the most powerful species to control everyone else. Yes, Jennifer said. But it's so carefully written that most species didn't catch it. The relevant provisions are scattered across 4,000 pages of text, spread through dozens of appendices and subclauses. You'd have to read every word, track every reference, and understand how they all connect to see the full picture. But you did, Chen said slowly. I did, Jennifer confirmed. Because humans have a particular talent that most species don't share. We're paranoid. We read the fine print. We learned centuries ago that the most dangerous threats hide in legal documents, in the words between the words. She pulled up more sections. Look at Article 156. It requires all signatories to register their military assets with the Arbitration Council for transparency. Sounds reasonable, right? Except when combined with Article 892, which allows the Council to demand disarmament of any species they deem a potential threat to galactic harmony. And Article 1247, which defines potential threat so broadly that it could apply to almost anyone. Chen was scanning through the documents now, his expression growing darker. Resource sharing provisions that amount to mandatory tribute. Technology transfer requirements that strip away competitive advantages. Immigration policies that allow the Council to relocate populations at will. He looked up. This isn't a peace treaty. It's a submission document. Exactly, Jennifer said. And 247 species just signed it. Including us. The plan that started years ago. Chen was silent for a long moment. Then he said, You knew. Before we signed. You knew this was in there. Jennifer nodded. I suspected 18 months ago. Confirmed it 6 months ago. I've been documenting everything since then. Why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you stop us from signing? Because stopping it would have made us the enemy, Jennifer said. Earth would have been labeled as the obstacle to galactic peace, the one species refusing to join the harmony. The other 246 species would have united against us, and we'd have faced economic isolation at best, military action at worst. So instead, you let us walk into a trap? I let us sign a document that 246 other species also signed, Jennifer corrected. Which means we're all in this together. And that changes everything. She pulled up a new set of documents. For the past 6 months, I've been quietly meeting with junior diplomats from other species. Not the senior officials, they're too invested in making this treaty work. But the younger ones, the ones who actually read what they were voting for and had the same concerns I did. The display showed a list of names. Representatives from 37 different species. We formed an informal coalition, Jennifer continued. 38 species who understand what this treaty actually does and who are preparing to challenge it. The strategy only humans could devise. Challenge it how? Chen asked. The treaty is already in effect. Through the treaty's own mechanisms, Jennifer said with a slight smile. Article 45 allows any signatory to request arbitration on any dispute with another signatory. Article 89 requires the Arbitration Council to hear all requests and issue rulings within a standard galactic year. And Article 134 mandates that all proceedings be public and recorded. Chan's eyes widened. You're going to flood the system. We're going to bury it, Jennifer confirmed. 38 species, each filing hundreds of arbitration requests. Some legitimate, some frivolous, all technically valid under the treaty. Trade disputes, border disagreements, cultural misunderstandings, historical grievances. The Council will be overwhelmed. They'll just refuse to hear them, Chen said. They can't. Article 189 requires them to address every request or face automatic sanctions. The treaty's own enforcement mechanisms will force them to process everything. And while they're drowning in paperwork, we'll be demonstrating to the entire galaxy just how unworkable this system actually is. She pulled up another section. Better yet, Article 673 allows any species to propose amendments to the treaty if they can get support from 20% of signatories. 38 species is 15%. We only need 12 more. The truth that would change everything. And you think you can get them? Chen asked. I think once the other species see what's actually in this treaty, once they realize they've given up their sovereignty to an unelected council, they'll be very interested in changing it, Jennifer said. Especially when they learn that the 5 council species knew exactly what they were doing. I have communication records showing they coordinated their positions throughout the negotiations, making sure the key provisions stayed hidden. Chen leaned back, processing. This could work. But it's risky. If the council realizes what you're doing, they'll invoke Article 1247 and declare us a threat to galactic harmony, Jennifer finished. Which is why we need to move fast. The first arbitration requests need to be filed within the next week, before the council fully understands what's happening. And Earth's role? Public support for the treaty, Jennifer said. We praise it, implement it, act like grateful newcomers to the galactic community. Meanwhile, I coordinate the coalition from here on neutral station. If the council suspects anything, they'll blame the other species first. Humans are too new, too eager to please. We couldn't possibly be orchestrating a galaxy-wide resistance movement. Chen actually smiled at that. Using our reputation as naive newcomers as cover. Using every advantage we have, Jennifer corrected. Including the one advantage nobody else seems to have, we actually read what we signed. The message that would echo. 3 days later, the Arbitration Council received its first formal request. The Kess Empire filed a complaint about a trade agreement with the VRYNN collective that dated back 400 years. It was technically valid under the new treaty's provisions but completely ridiculous in scope. 6 hours later, 15 more requests arrived from different species. Then 30 more. Then 100. By the end of the week, the Council had received over 2,000 arbitration requests covering everything from ancient border disputes to complaints about cultural appropriation of traditional foods. Councillor Vexkar called Jennifer to his office. His crystalline body was pulsing with agitated colors she'd never seen before. Ambassador Torres, do you have any idea what's happening? Jennifer maintained her innocent expression. I assume species are utilizing the dispute resolution mechanisms we all agreed to. Isn't this exactly what the treaty was designed for? This is absurd. Vexkar's colors flashed red. Half of these requests are centuries old. The other half are trivial matters that could be resolved with simple communication. And yet, under Article 89, the Council must address all of them, Jennifer said gently. That was part of ensuring fairness, wasn't it? That every species, no matter how small or new, would have equal access to justice? Vexkar stared at her. She could see the moment he realized what was happening, the moment he understood that someone had read the entire treaty and found every loophole, every contradiction, every mechanism that could be turned against its creators. He whispered. Humans did this. Jennifer smiled. Humans encouraged other species to exercise their rights under a treaty we all signed together. If there's a problem with that, Counselor, perhaps the treaty itself needs revision. In fact, I believe Article 673 provides a mechanism for exactly that purpose. She stood to leave, then paused. Oh, and Counselor? You might want to review Article 1089. It requires the Council to provide detailed public reports on all arbitration proceedings. I'm sure the galaxy will be very interested in seeing how you handle this workload. Transparency is so important for maintaining trust, don't you think? As she left his office, Jennifer allowed herself a small smile. The trap had been sprung, but not on humanity. The species who had hidden their power grab in 4,000 pages of legal text were about to learn an important lesson about the dangers of underestimating others. Especially when those others actually bothered to read what they were signing, the fine print's revenge. The Council's growing problem. 3 months after the Galactic Harmony Accord took effect, the Arbitration Council was drowning. Their elegant chambers, designed for dignified debate over important galactic matters, had become a chaotic processing center. Holographic displays covered every surface, each one showing a different arbitration request waiting for review. Counselor Vexkar stood in the center of the chaos, his crystalline body flickering with stress patterns. Around him, the other 4 council members worked frantically, trying to keep up with the flood of requests. "This is impossible," Counselor Thane of the Corthex Empire growled. His species had dominated galactic politics for 5,000 years through military strength and careful diplomacy. Now he was reviewing a complaint about a disputed mining claim from 800 years ago. "We can't process 8,000 arbitration requests simultaneously." "We have to," Counselor Massare of the Velm reminded him. Her species had been the primary architects of the treaty's legal framework. She'd thought herself clever, hiding mechanisms of control throughout the document. Now those same mechanisms were being used against them. Article 89 requires us to address every request. If we don't, Article 189 imposes automatic sanctions. "Who wrote these provisions?" Thane demanded. "We did," Messare said quietly. "We wanted to ensure no species could refuse arbitration. We never imagined anyone would actually use the system this aggressively." The human understanding. Ambassador Jennifer Torres watched the council's struggles from the public observation gallery. Beside her sat Ambassador Creative of the Kess Empire, one of her first coalition partners. "It's working better than we hoped," Creative clicked in her species language, her translator rendering it as satisfied amusement. "The council is paralyzed." "Phase 1 complete," Jennifer agreed. "Now we move to Phase 2. She pulled up her datapad, showing a list of upcoming arbitration hearings. Each one had been carefully selected to highlight specific problems with the treaty. "Today, the council hears the Talvos dispute with the Quen," Jennifer explained. "It's about a colony world both species claim. Under the treaty, the council can award the planet to either side. But Article 847 requires them to enforce their decision, which means potentially sending military forces to evict whoever loses. And neither species will accept that," Creative said, understanding dawning. "The Talvos and Quen have been arguing about that world for 300 years, but they've never gone to war over it. If the council tries to enforce a decision, they'll unite against the council instead," Jennifer finished. "Which is exactly what we want. We're not trying to destroy the treaty completely. We're trying to show that it gives the council too much power that becomes dangerous when actually used." Below them, the council chamber opened for the day's proceedings. The Talvos delegation entered from one side, their feathered crests raised in challenge. The Quen delegation entered from the other, their scaled bodies armored as if for battle. The precedent that changed everything. Counselor Vexkar began the hearing with standard protocols, reviewing the centuries-old dispute. Both sides presented their cases with surprising emotion, given how long this argument had been going on. Jennifer noticed that each delegation seemed more aggressive than usual, more willing to escalate. That was because her coalition had been coaching them. Not obviously, but through casual conversations over the past weeks, suggesting that this was their chance to finally win the dispute. Building up expectations that the council would have to choose a side. After 3 hours of testimony, Vexkar called for a recess so the council could deliberate. Jennifer used the break to check in with her other coalition members scattered throughout the galaxy. "The VRYNN petition is ready," Ambassador Chen from Earth confirmed via encrypted channel. "We're filing it during tomorrow's session." "The Kess economic complaint is scheduled for next week," Ambassador Creative added. "It will demonstrate how the resource-sharing provisions effectively create mandatory tribute systems. And the Delos are prepared to reveal the communications we discovered," added Ambassador Portek of the Delos Confederation. "Proof that the 5 council species coordinated their positions throughout the treaty negotiations." Jennifer nodded, satisfied. Each piece was falling into place. When the council returned, Vexkar's colors were troubled. "This council has reached a decision regarding the disputed colony world. After careful review of both claims, we find that..." He stopped. Jennifer could see him struggling with the words. Whatever decision the council had reached, he clearly understood the implications. The decision that exposed everything. We find that the dispute cannot be resolved through arbitration, Vexkar said finally. The colony world will remain jointly administered by both species until they can reach a negotiated settlement. The chamber erupted. The Talvos delegation screeched in protest. The Quen delegation roared their disapproval. Both sides had expected a clear ruling, a definitive answer after 300 years. Instead, the council had refused to decide. Ambassador Corvan of the Talvos stood, his feathered crest fully extended. This is unacceptable. The treaty promises that the council will resolve all disputes. Article 45 guarantees us a ruling. We have provided a ruling, Messare said, her voice strained. Joint administration is a recognized form of conflict resolution. It's not resolution at all. Quen delegate Marvex shouted. It's avoiding the problem. You promised justice and delivered cowardice. Jennifer stood in the observation gallery. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. If I may address the council, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. All eyes turned to her. I believe I see the issue. The council was placed in an impossible position. Vexkar's colors shifted to wary attention. Explain, Ambassador Torres. The treaty requires you to resolve disputes, Jennifer said. But Article 847 also requires you to enforce your decisions using any means necessary. In this case, that would mean choosing between two species who both have legitimate claims and then potentially using military force against whichever side you ruled against. She paused, letting that sink in. The council realized that any definitive ruling would require violence to enforce. Violence that would turn both the Talvos and Quen against you, potentially destroying the very harmony this treaty was meant to create. So instead, you chose not to decide, violating the spirit of the treaty to preserve its intent. The truth revealed. The chamber was silent. Every species present was processing what Jennifer had just laid bare. The treaty's enforcement mechanisms were fundamentally broken. Any decision strong enough to matter would require force that would undermine the entire system. This is one dispute, Councillor Thane said, trying to maintain authority. An unusual case that. It's not unusual at all, Jennifer interrupted, pulling up her data pad. Over the next month, the Council faces 237 similar disputes. Border conflicts, resource claims, territorial disagreements. Every one of them requires a definitive ruling that will anger at least one species. Every one of them will force you to choose between enforcing the treaty through violence or refusing to enforce it at all. She projected her data onto the chamber's main display. Case after case, each one presenting the same impossible choice. The treaty was designed to give the Council enormous power, Jennifer continued. Power to resolve any dispute, enforce any decision, intervene in any conflict. But power like that only works if you're willing to use it constantly, aggressively, without hesitation. The moment you hesitate, the moment you refuse to enforce one decision, the entire system's credibility collapses. Vexkar's colors dimmed. He knew she was right. They all knew. The coalition strikes. Which brings us to our proposal, Ambassador Creative said, standing beside Jennifer. Around the chamber, 37 other ambassadors stood as well, representing every species in the coalition. We, the undersigned species, invoke Article 673, Creative announced. We propose comprehensive amendments to the Galactic Harmony Accord, including but not limited to, restructuring the Arbitration Council to include rotating membership from all signatories, limiting enforcement powers to economic sanctions rather than military intervention, and establishing clear boundaries for Council authority. You need 20% of signatories to propose amendments, Messare said, though her voice lacked conviction. That's 50 species. You only have 38. Correction, said Ambassador Corvan, who had just moments ago been protesting the Council's decision. As of this moment, the Talvos Empire joins this coalition. The Council's refusal to provide justice has demonstrated the need for reform. The Quen Confederacy joins as well, Marvex added. For the same reasons. Over the next hour, 12 more species stood and announced their support. Species who had initially supported the treaty but had grown concerned over the past 3 months as they watched the Council struggle under the weight of arbitration requests. By the end, the coalition had 53 members. 21% of the treaty's signatories. The amendments are formally proposed, Jennifer said. Article 674 requires a full assembly vote within 60 days. I believe we'll find significant support, especially once we present the evidence that the Council species coordinated their positions during negotiations to ensure these problematic provisions stayed hidden. The evidence that couldn't be denied. Ambassador Portek stepped forward, his Thalos telepathic abilities allowing him to project communications directly into the chamber's recording systems. These are private messages between the 5 Council species during the treaty negotiations. Watch carefully. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing conversations between high-ranking officials from the VRYNN, Cortex, Velm, Septix, and Corvax civilizations. Messages discussing how to phrase key provisions to hide their true intent. Debates about which appendices to bury dangerous clauses in. Agreements to vote together to push through sections that other species questioned. This is taken out of context, Thane protested, but his voice was weak. The context makes it worse, Jennifer said. You didn't stumble into creating a system of control. You designed it deliberately, piece by piece, hidden across thousands of pages of legal text. You counted on other species not reading carefully, not having the patience or paranoia to track every clause and reference. She smiled. You just didn't count on humans. We've been dealing with predatory contracts and hidden clauses for thousands of years. Reading fine print is practically our species' superpower. The negotiation that saved the galaxy. Over the following weeks, the proposed amendments were debated throughout the galaxy. The coalition grew to 73 species, nearly 30% of the signatories. The 5 Council species initially tried to resist, but support for reform was overwhelming. Finally, 60 days after the amendments were proposed, the full Galactic Assembly convened for a vote. Jennifer stood with the human delegation, watching as species after species voted in favor of restructuring the treaty. The final tally, 198 species in favor, 41 against, 8 abstaining. The Galactic Harmony Accord would be amended. The Arbitration Council would be restructured with rotating membership. Enforcement powers would be limited. Clear boundaries would be established. After the vote, Councillor Vexkar approached Jennifer privately. His colors were subdued, accepting. You outmaneuvered us completely, he said. We thought we were so clever, hiding our control mechanisms where no one would find them. You were clever, Jennifer acknowledged. The problem was assuming that being clever was enough. You forgot that some species are paranoid enough to actually read what they're signing. And humans are that paranoid? Humans learned the hard way, Jennifer said. Centuries of bad deals, exploitative contracts, legal traps. We developed a cultural instinct to trust nothing we haven't read ourselves. You saw it as a quirk. We saw it as survival. The new treaty. The amended Galactic Harmony Accord was signed 3 months later. It retained most of the original treaty's peaceful intentions while eliminating the mechanisms of control. The Arbitration Council became a true neutral body rather than a tool of the 5 most powerful species. Earth's role in the reform was publicly acknowledged. Humanity was praised for its attention to detail, its commitment to fairness, its willingness to stand up for smaller species. Privately, the 5 former Council species understood what had really happened. They had been outplayed by newcomers who had only been in space for a few decades. Not through military might or technological superiority, but through simple human paranoia and the willingness to actually read the fine print. In her quarters on Neutral Station, Jennifer finished her final report to Earth. Secretary Chen's hologram appeared, smiling. You did it, Ambassador. The treaty is fixed, and humanity's reputation has never been better. We got lucky, Jennifer said. The other species were ready to listen once they understood what they'd signed. Lucky? Chen laughed. You spent 2 years planning this. You coordinated 38 species in secret. You turned the treaty's own mechanisms against its creators. That's not luck, Jennifer. That's brilliance. It's experience, Jennifer corrected. Humans have been dealing with fine print for a long time. We just had to teach the galaxy the same lesson we learned centuries ago: never sign anything without reading it first. She looked out at the stars, at the hundreds of alien ships docked at Neutral Station. The galaxy tried to unite under a treaty that would have enslaved most species to a handful of powerful civilizations. They almost succeeded because everyone wanted peace so badly they didn't question how it was being achieved. And humanity stopped it, Chen said. Humanity pointed out the problem, Jennifer corrected. The galaxy stopped it themselves once they understood. That's the real victory, not that we saved everyone, but that we taught them to save themselves. The lesson learned. 6 months after the Reformed Treaty took effect, the Galactic Assembly held a ceremony honoring the coalition species who had worked for reform. Jennifer stood among ambassadors from dozens of worlds, accepting recognition for their efforts. In her speech, she said something that would be quoted throughout the galaxy for generations. We learned today that peace built on hidden chains is not peace at all. We learned that harmony imposed through legal trickery is simply tyranny in a pleasant disguise. But most importantly, we learned to read what we sign, to question what seems too good to be true, and to stand together when we discover we've been deceived. She paused, looking at the assembled species. The humans have a saying, the devil is in the details. Today, the galaxy learned why humans always read the fine print. Because that's where the devils hide, waiting for someone careless enough to sign without looking. The assembly erupted in approval, clicks, whistles, roars, and telepathic applause from hundreds of species who had learned an important lesson. As Jennifer left the stage, Ambassador Creath approached her. What will you do now, Jennifer? The galaxy knows humans can be trusted to find the traps others miss. You could write your own ticket, name your own position. Jennifer smiled. I'm going back to Earth for a while. My daughter starts college next year, and I've missed too much of her life already. Besides, we've trained a new generation of diplomats who learned the most important human skill. What's that? Healthy paranoia, Jennifer said. Read everything. Trust nothing. And always check the fine print. She looked up at the stars, at a galaxy that was a little bit freer because one species had bothered to read what others had skimmed. The treaty trap failed because humans are naturally suspicious of things that seem too good to be true. That's not a bug in human psychology, it's a feature. And now the whole galaxy knows it. Creath clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps we should all become a little more human in our approach to agreements. Or at least read what you sign, Jennifer said. That would be a good start. As she prepared to leave Neutral Station, Jennifer received one final communication. It was from the 5 species who had tried to control the galaxy through legal manipulation. A brief message, and signed but clearly from them. Well played, Ambassador Torres. We underestimated humanity. We won't make that mistake again. Jennifer smiled and sent a reply, good. Because we'll be reading everything you send us from now on. Every contract. Every agreement. Every treaty. The galaxy has learned that humans will find what you try to hide. Consider yourselves warned. The Galactic Harmony Accord became a model for future treaties, not the original version, but the reformed one. And every species that joined the galactic community afterward received the same advice from established members. Read what you sign. Especially if humans are involved. Because the galaxy had learned an important truth: in a universe of advanced species, ancient civilizations, and powerful empires, the most dangerous beings might just be the ones who actually bother to read the fine print.